First, though, last night, Boris Johnson addressed the nation to announce a 3-week lockdown of the UK in a bid to tackle coronavirus.
Well, the new restrictions ban people from leaving their homes, meeting in groups of more than 2 people, and will see the closure of all non-essential shops, outdoor gyms and places of worship. And I think as the day goes on, we're watching Good Morning Britain this morning, there was real confusion over construction workers. Are you building something that is absolutely necessary for right now?
Yeah.
Or you should go home, because the tubes this morning were full of construction workers coming into town, then getting off, going and working together.
It's not that clear, is it? That's the thing. It's lockdown, but not that clear. But will it be enough to stop the spread? We're joined by Dr Zoe and Dr Philippa now. Welcome to both of you. Zoe, first of all, obviously you have been in isolation, you've done your days. Obviously you're feeling much better now, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my 7. I'm on day 10 and I was back to work yesterday in the practice, although most of the consultations were over the telephone, and I'm feeling almost back to normal. Just still wouldn't go for a run, wouldn't exercise, because I'm still just not completely back to full strength, but no more infective symptoms at all.
Good.
Whereas the way the virus hits you can vary from person to person.
Absolutely.
We know that some people asymptomatic maybe lose their sense of taste or smell, perhaps. That could be one of the symptoms. Some people very mild, some people with a fever, some people feeling pretty rough, some people critically ill.
Yes.
What about recovery? So do people recover in a different way?
Yes, I think it's a slow recovery. This is what I'm hearing, and certainly from my own experience, if I was to get a cold or a flu, 2 days later, I'd be back in the gym, I'd be back at work, I'd be back living my normal life. Having self-isolated for 7 days, in some ways, I needed that time. I needed that time to recover. So even though my fever and my cough subsided after 2 to 3 days, actually getting out, I was sleeping for 12 hours a night still. I was achy and just exhausted.
And for lots of people, that cough is going to persist for weeks. I was saying about 3 to 4 weeks is normal for the cough to persist for. But as long as your fever has gone down and you've done your 7 days, then you can go out. If on day 8 you still have a fever, you still have to stay at home.
Let's talk about the lockdown now and what this means. There's people sort of having concerns about whether or not this is too little too late, that actually the spread has already happened. Also, just explain to us what this actually means, because over the next few weeks, we will see that graph continue to go up, the number of cases of coronavirus, the number of deaths. And that doesn't mean that the lockdown's not working, because there's a delay, isn't there, here?
Absolutely. So, I mean, if I use myself as an example, I'm on day 10 from when I first got symptoms, but I probably caught this 5 days before that. If I was going to be one of those unfortunate people that needed a ventilator, today would be the day that I would need it. So that's 15 days after I picked up the virus. So the actions we're making today are not going to affect how many people need a ventilator tomorrow or the next day or even 10 days in the future. They're affecting who's going to need a ventilator in 15 days' time.
So that means that the fact that, you know, we're put in lockdown because there were many people who didn't listen over the weekend. So that whereas we're in lockdown now, and hopefully you'll see a benefit in 15 days' time, what happened at the weekend with all of those people congregating when they shouldn't have been together, I'm assuming that there is a spike to come in 15 days' time.
So it's not going to spike as in to see a little extra zigzag on the curve, but we are going to continue to be climbing whatever our curve is. And what we're trying to do is flatten the peak of that curve and try and make a difference. And I know that it's hard. It was a sunny, weekend, but there is a real difference between walking in the park for exercise and going to play a game of football and have a picnic.
You can't help but compare yourself to other countries at this time. Germany, for example, has managed to get a grip of this outbreak. Why are we struggling?
It's really difficult, and to some extent we can't compare ourselves too much to other countries because we're so different to other countries. You know, we are an island, we have a uniform NHS, which is one of the things that's going to stand us in good stead, actually. If we look at Lombardy in Italy or Wuhan in China, they're sort of a confined region. We have an NHS that operates across the country. So although we're seeing a huge rise in cases in London, hopefully one of the good news stories is that hopefully because we work as a whole nation, that will help. It's difficult to compare ourselves to other countries, and I know that we're seeing in other countries that they seem to have got a grip of this better, but I do keep coming back to the fact that we do have some of the best scientists in the world, and I do believe that actually, had these lockdown measures been brought in 2 weeks ago, from what I saw on Saturday and the way people were behaving when I came out of lockdown, people wouldn't have abided by it. And as much as the government have a huge team that's looking at how the virus behaves, they have another huge team that looks at how human beings behave, behavioural science, and they've had to take all that into consideration.
I suppose also, I mean, you do hear of people, I mean, I've heard people say, listen, I want to get it now and get it out the way. If you get it now, it could be 15 days before you need a ventilator.
So it could be up to 14 days before you show any symptoms, and then people who are getting very unwell is about 10 days after that. So actually, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3.5 weeks. And by then, I'm hoping that we're going to be at the peak of our curve, whatever that may be. And so the idea of let me just go and get it out the way, oh, it's only a play date with one person, let me just do that. No, now we stay at home.
And what about our NHS? How are we coping? Will we be able to cope when we hit that peak?
The measures that have been taken in the NHS, the long list of things that are happening, it's huge. There's the 7,500 doctors and nurses coming back from retirement that we hear about. But working as a GP yesterday in my clinic, everything is different. I can't send patients for routine blood tests. I can't send patients for routine x-rays. I can't refer a patient. I saw a patient who had a hernia. I can't do a routine referral for that patient to have their surgery. We are diverting everything to dealing with this, and we need every single person at home to do their little bit to help us be able to cope.
So what can we do in lockdown?
So you can go out to exercise once per day. If you are on your own, you could technically meet one person and stay 2 meters apart. I'm a household of 5. We're able to go out 5 together. So you're able to go out with your household members. You know, all those parents out there with children who are climbing the walls, you can still go out with them. But when you are walking in the park and somebody else is coming towards you, you need to swerve that 2 meters away. You can visit essential shops. So that's a pharmacy, that's food, when you absolutely need to. So not I fancy a lemon today. And don't take the whole family with you as long as there is somebody to look after them. So those are the most important things that you can do. If you are one of the 1.5 million people who will receive a letter this week from your GP because you are an especially vulnerable group, so for example, if you are an organ transplant patient, if you have a blood cancer, if you have sickle cell anemia, then you are on absolute lockdown and you do not leave your house at all. And medications and food must be dropped at your door. So there's still a difference between what we're saying for very vulnerable groups and what we're saying for everybody else.